get it. When that parent teacher
Is it
conference.
just about, oh, we got a minute.
We got a minute, but just be aware that the video is recording.
When we had parent teachers conference, they had a phone call from Mr. Herbst. I'm like, oh God, what happened now? And it was a good one. It was for Danny. And both my husband and I look at him, at Danny, go, are you the right kid? And stuff. I'm like, oh. So I was really like they see it, hear that.
I love his emails. He'll send an email and I can tell like that the kid's not gonna be able to understand what you just wrote. And he's got all these little guys with his gray hair.
Uh-huh.
So they're all doing all different things. I don't know if where he gets them or if he makes them or whatever, but they're so cute.
Maybe those little avatars or something.
Yeah.
Evening, Ron.
Howdy.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Verification of meeting notice,
Web.
approval of the agenda.
I also move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, it's approved. Old business, 4.1, there's none. New business, 5.1, curriculum goals versus COVID. Maybe if Kathleen is coming, we'll move to 5.2, and Ron, you can finish reading your papers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about that, and then maybe Kathleen will be here.
I do have it now linked to my minutes. Oh, Mr. DePaul.
Hi.
You have a problem with the computer freezing up during class?
Yeah, there's a lot of, with the Schoology, if you notice,
That's all I'm asking.
yeah. It's most
Is
unfortunate.
that a bandwidth? Is Adam getting a handle on what that's causing that? Is it bandwidth, lack of bandwidth, or is it on Schoology, is it on the software on their, or on the server, their end?
Lots of
On our end,
times, and I don't find out about it till later, but a lot of times, as soon as Adam asks, a lot of times our teacher knows there's an issue before he even gets a notice. But he'll get a notice, sometimes it's an hour later.
I would say 95, 98% of the time it's their issue, not
Okay.
ours.
Okay.
Because it'll be Schoology or it'll be Zoom or Kahoot or something like that where it's
Okay.
And that's very disappointing to hear when you make that investment and it's supposed to be so good and other school districts have been using it and, you know, and maybe there's just much more use now and, you know, I don't know, but Schoology, it needs to be contacted and that needs to be addressed as to why is this happening.
Yeah, but Schoology is so large, that, I mean,
I
even
know.
Southwest Tech uses it, Madison
Yeah.
uses
Yeah.
it. So I think they have, the demand is so high, I think they're recovering fast enough.
Yeah,
They're
I mean,
scrambling.
that's what I mean, everything has changed.
Yeah.
So Kathleen, we kind of moved to 5.2.
Sorry, late, I had a
No,
payroll appointment.
That's okay, but then we'll go back to 5.1, but we were all reading what some of the staff had reported, and so we're kind of talking about Schoology and the disappointment with that. But we can go back to 5.1, curriculum goals versus COVID.
So that was on that list too, and nobody, responded to it. I kind of put this out to the teachers to get their feedback for tonight.
It was misinterpreted
Oh,
because I interpreted that was the example as
oh,
opposed to that was a question.
got it. So that was one of the three on the curriculum meeting.
Yeah.
So it's, the goal that we started the last few years, it's, as far as aligning and all that stuff, truthfully has been put on hold. I mean, we just don't have the time, the energy, and I think the teachers are doing a good job with realizing, and somebody put in here, and I don't remember who, but like, okay, I just have to realize I can't get through all of it. It's like, what do they have to learn?
Well, I guess I personally am glad to hear that, because I don't think at this time it's time to add more. There's enough.
No, I 100% agree, and just, learning a Schoology, the Zooming and in person at the same time, it's just like, again, we were on survival mode in the spring. This is like worse, I don't know, that's just from what I see and hear because of all of the unknown and the internet not working and Schoology, I would like people to continue to work on identifying the essential, and where are they in your year? That, you continue to think about that, but not, I hope I haven't given the impression that I want more done. Just that, as you're planning lessons or planning a week or 2 weeks, really be focused on what must be learned. Last year, 2 years ago, I did this unit that was really involved.
The issue, and I can't speak for others, but that identifying the essentials, what I hear is doesn't compute, not in my field.
Well, remember we worked last,
I know.
you did a fantastic
I
job.
know what we worked on, but I also know that what I teach in each of my classes is essential. It's gonna take me 2 years to fix last spring. I'm doing in pre-calculus now what I should have done in the spring in Algebra 2. I'm not getting to calculus until second quarter because of the stuff that we didn't do in pre-calculus. Because what we missed was essential. And so it's hard to say, 11's not essential? Or it's hard to say factoring's not essential? What component, when it's all a building process, isn't essential? And so that's why to do something like that is to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but if I'm gonna take out factoring, then even if, because there's 7 different types of factoring, and if I take one of them out in pre-calculus, you're gonna need that 7th one. And so for me, it's a matter of saying, all right, this is what I'm gonna concentrate on. I know how far I'm gonna be next year. I'm gonna do what I can and pick up where we left off and then go on. because there is no way that I'm gonna be able to pick and choose parts or topics or things. Can I leave a section out? Sure. Scatter plots. I'm not gonna cover scatter plots until I get them in the college algebra. And when we get into some of the pre-calculus, I'll stop and I'll do a 2-week on scatter plots because we don't need that in calculus. Or we don't need it until we get to a certain level. So yes, there is a topic, but that's only one. And so when Paula and Greg and I are talking, Paul is feeling a lot of pressure because there's 6 modules that she has to get through. Well, we're down to 80% time the way it is. Well, Wednesdays are nice, but Wednesdays you're not getting through anything productive. It's a 20-minute time frame where maybe you're going to talk and get a couple of questions. We're operating on 80% time right now. So she's feeling the pressure of what out of there am I supposed to cut out? So Greg, Paul and I are saying, all right, we're going to figure this out so that way Greg knows that they're going to be probably, we're not going to get through, we'll get introductory and remediation, but he knows now they're not going to be coming in very strong on a particular topic. So then he'll know, all right, then I need to backtrack and take a couple of baby steps, maybe a little bit extra time in order to get them up to speed where I need them. He and I are doing the same thing from Algebra 1 to Algebra 2. So that's how we're compensating.
That's exactly what we are doing. I mean, that's,
But there isn't anything that we're necessarily per se cutting out. We're just recognizing where we're gonna have to spend a little bit more time next year.
Are there any other questions on that? And as we were reading through 5.2, I think the biggest thing that, before you got here, Kathleen, that we were talking about was the fact that Schoology is inconsistent.
Hearing that from other,
cross country.
Okay.
I'm not, and I know Google Classroom has similar, but I'm not paying attention to the
Right,
classroom.
right.
sure,
Schools that use that also have very similar. We're just more familiar with Classroom because it's been in our program, you know, we've had, you know, for 15 years, you know, we've used Google for a long time. I do think, you know, there's more training that can be done to fine tune it. And I've offered and I've been told, no, we don't have the energy, you know. So I hesitate. There are things that to fine tune and make things a little maybe simpler. Kristen continues to add little videos and things in there for, you know, to help. If you want to do this, this is the way to do it. So, but yeah, it is. I mean, the internet, everybody's on it. So I just think, and it's worse where we are. And then Zoom's a problem from time to time. And then schools that use Google Meet have similar situations with that, you know, or,
One of the things at the high school, and I know you didn't get much of a response. So even though I got the petition, it is, the computer screen sterilizes the expressions. I can read just because we're together. And when I'm having to do a discussion and it's either a blank screen or this is what you see, it's really hard to get a feel as to whether I'm even communicating and they're able to pick up the things that we're discussing. So, and I would say that that's pretty much a high school commonality is we're having a hard time really establishing and trying to make that educational connection. I couldn't, honestly, there are days where when we were on virtual, couldn't have told you whether or not they were getting it or if that was, the sky was blue or the sky was green. I had absolutely no idea. And then with the 20 minutes that we had, or it was really 15 because of logging in and logging out, you're talking so fast that it's like to try to get anything accomplished. I had one lesson that took me 4 days. We got started, somebody asked a question, ding, it's over. You come back in, you gotta take a step back so that way you can remember this is where we were at, somebody asks the question, ding. And so it really was disjointed when we had that period of time. And then on top of it, like you said, you're talking so fast, it's like, all right, see you tomorrow. If you got a question, I've got the office hours, all that. I had a couple of girls coming in for that, but that was about it.
And I think that with some of the students that have been willing to share or some of the parents also, and not a complaint, but they say, especially math seems to be awful hard virtual. And I'm sure it's just because of exactly what you're saying, because the kids have to ask.
Yeah.
And it's easier for them. So they're having the same, you can't read them. They're probably having the
Right,
same.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I'm teaching on Donahoe's overhead, projected on the chalkboard against the back wall, because that's the only thing that won't cast glare.
Okay,
So I've got this much of a window, and it's good, like if we're doing the parabola progression, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do 5 of them so you can see how the shift is occurring. It's all on that little piece, and then you're like erasing, and then you're trying to do it, oh, ding, class is over. So you get 1 or you get 2 in, and then you run into,
Yeah, the technology, like, and if we were in a collegiate atmosphere, the teacher would have multiple screens, things to build that, and it's just hard. They have a Chromebook and maybe a desktop that works.
Yeah.
And you found a document camera, or whatever.
yeah, I wish I had a document camera.
They're ordered, but once again,
Under technology.
Right, it
buying
is.
more stuff.
Yeah.
And jack the price up, and now it's.
Oh, sure.
But I will say, the teachers are working their butts off, and I feel they're really doing a good job. Like, I was just talking to, when I was going into town, I was talking to a friend that teaches, we spend years learning how to teach reading in person. And now, boom, in maybe a day or two, now you're teaching reading virtually. It's like, and they've adapted and try to engage the kids as best they can. And I think, they're checking in on the kids, they're letting us know when they're not there, and we're doing the best that we can given the circumstances. And then then the anxiety of, is somebody gonna get sick? On top of, you're just
Right.
in the back of your head, like, it's there,
Yeah, it's now not even a day by day. Now it's getting almost hour by hour in certain,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have to check my email before, like at 11 o'clock at night to see if I have frantically changed schedules for tomorrow. And then I gotta get up at 5 because calls can come in, or, it's just like, I got 2 symptoms, don't come in, so I don't, And parents are anxious and they want the kids here, but they, it's just, I do think the teachers are doing, I think, a good job under the circumstances with Schoology and.
Well, and I think we expressed at the last board meeting, we have a lot of concern, because we know that it's a tremendous load and it's very, very different. So this, getting getting together was more just to maybe brainstorm and get some ideas. I don't know how, no, we don't know how it can be made easier. It's just the nature of the beast.
I will say that we are planning on bringing to the board the idea of subs so that we can have, and we mentioned it, we're gonna do a little twist on it. If approved, we'd like to hire 2 full-time teachers as 2 full-time subs. And first of all, we can't, we value our subs very much, but we can't just, we can't get them all the time. We would like them to be here all the time. And there's enough work for the teachers that if we had somebody that didn't have anything to do, quote unquote, for the day, we would give them to a teacher to have them substitute or co-teach with them to take over maybe the virtual kids so that the teacher could just teach to the classroom for the day, something to help ease the burden on the teachers. So that's in the works, hopefully by Monday, if you guys are all okay with it. Again, it needs to be approved by the board, but that is something that the elementary mentioned that they needed time. Kathleen asked that in her meeting, and I did have one high school teacher email me something that we could remove from their plate, but the middle school and high school haven't quite processed that yet. And I don't think Chris quite put it the same way Kathleen did. Like, if we had somebody here, what could we remove from your plate and give to somebody else so that you guys would have more time to work with kids and process and all that kind of stuff. But that's one of our goals.
And I've seen things from communications from teachers, and I thought, I like the fact that you come in with solutions. And, I understand it's hard, and I value the concerns, and I'll say the complaints, and that's fine. But solutions are helpful, especially someone like me, because I don't know what the environment is. I don't know what it is like to be on the front lines. And that's the one thing too is, we may have to be thinking outside the box here. However, we need to do that. The main thing is you got to stay in compliance with DPI or whatever the criteria for minutes or for each student and whatever. But if there's ways that we can give them more time and still be in compliance with all that we need to and deliver a quality education, then I'm certainly open to it. And but I'm not the right one to try to develop a
Right. That's,
way to
we
do
have,
that.
we have to know and then see. And maybe this isn't for curriculum and that, but I know Reedsburg just had to do the flip-flop again. And they had Thursday and Friday off, but they took Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as well, so that the teachers could prepare for what's happening next week. So how does that stay in compliance with
Yeah.
DPI? I mean, are there going to be exceptions out there? I mean, there they are missing, but the teachers are working.
Yeah, the teachers are working. That's the one thing I've
So,
heard similar things to that too, that I've
Yeah.
seen, well, how is that school doing that and staying in compliance with the amount of time the students have to be taught? It makes me scratch my head because it doesn't seem to fit with what.
right,
I'm
with
hearing on
the
board.
minutes
But-
or everything, but maybe,
Well, I know schools like Reedsburg, like they have, I want to say 10 or 12 professional days in their year. And so maybe they're, like we did with the Schoology thing, maybe they're shifting some of that.
okay,
Or, I don't know, I haven't read, like if I know there was waiver last year. I don't know, I haven't read recently if there's.
There is.
Waivers.
There is, we
Probably
can't
not
apply
as,
for a waiver on just about anything.
Right, but probably not as much as last.
No, it's not gonna just be okay.
Yeah.
It'll have to go through a process, but I was advised to not put a waiver out there just in case we needed it.
You gotta wait till you have to have.
Wait till I have to have it and then apply for the
Because
waiver.
they can deny a blanket waiver,
Right,
but a specific.
but if it's like, okay, this happened, and this happened, so therefore we didn't, we had to take this much time off each day or whatever it was.
Is Reedsburg going virtual? Is that there? Okay.
Richland is now 100%
Do they,
virtual as of this afternoon.
Do they know how long?
I don't know if they have said, I think through the end of November.
When I was
think is
talking
what
to Heather Owen, because Diane is the principal at St. Luke's, and they're planning 2-week virtual, and St. Luke's is in person this whole time. They're planning 2 weeks virtual on like the Monday after Thanksgiving and then after Christmas. Because they know families are gonna,
The different exposures.
Hospitals, middle school and high school are virtual now until next Thursday. Friday they have off, but elementary is still in person. And that is because of teacher shortages.
And I think that's what we're finding. It's not
Mhm.
always, it's,
Right.
it typically around here, it hasn't been because of COVID.
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
because of students having COVID. It's because teachers, and the teachers aren't even having COVID. They're being exposed to people with
Yeah.
COVID. And so they're out because of the quarantining.
but I will say in the last 2 days, our kid connection to COVID is,
Mhm.
you know, it's gone like, since the last time we met, it is, you know, quadrupled. Number of kids that are being either going out for testing or, you know, dad came home with it from work, you know, there's a lot of that. So somebody in the community is, I don't know, but, I haven't checked their, the Richland County.
there was 9 new ones today.
Yeah.
I think that's what I heard.
County COVID, what's that called, dashboard?
Yep.
9 new ones today.
I think that's what I heard on the radio.
I mean, I just feel like today, as I'm entering, you know, we're trying to keep track when kids are out, you know, it just feels like it's coming right into the school, you know, like the kid, you know.
Well, and the number of people that are, just because of the numbers, the number of people that are being turned down in Richland County to be tested. You know, they
Yeah.
did have this now. I don't know if they have
They
those
seemed to lighten up on
results.
that because I went and got, I mean, I got exposed by my daughter and Alicia had it. She lost her sense of taste, so. But she's been released from the quarantine dorm and such, but I was exposed, she didn't know she had it anyway. I went to, and I was like, well, I'm going to get tested, and the National Guard one, and and they keep talking about the special circumstances at WRCO. It's open to the public, but with special circumstances. Well, I know initially their comments were you need to be symptomatic or this criteria, that criteria. And
Even for the guard one?
But you're,
no, not for the guard,
Right,
well,
the guard.
not for the guard one, the hospital one.
Yeah, yeah.
The guard one was open, but they always stipulated that, you know, you go through and the special circuit, they don't define what that is in the radio, but even on the website, when I signed up, it asked you if you got symptoms, and I said, sure, I got this and
Right,
this,
right, right.
you know, I'm getting older,
but I thought it was
fatigued
you
all the
were
time.
exposed. I thought that was
But I
one of
was,
the
no, but-
symptoms.
But not, at Boscobel, they asked because they're losing some teachers because they get exposed to stuff. They asked, well, can we go back and now get tested because we were exposed to show we were positive, negative? And Grant County said no.
No,
You can't-
Richmond says no.
And being testing to go back to a job is no longer acceptable.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that that's universal or all the
Right,
time.
right.
No, I went to.
Jobs aren't supposed to, actually, is what Randy told me.
The county one I went to on Monday to get tested because, okay, I want to go back and get tested again. You know, I just went and filled it out and said, yeah, I got 2 symptoms but they didn't, you know, I think pretty much you could go there if you just,
Well, like spring grade, you can just go through, like Dave and I went when Emma was positive, at the end of her time, just to make sure, and there was no, and truly, they just did it,
yeah, I think,
but it's the hospital that won't.
but I agree that there was a, you know, I could not go get tested at the last board meeting. That was one of the things, I can't go get tested because I'm not symptomatic, I didn't have this, didn't have exposure. And so that was frustrating, but it is what it is. I'm hoping now that people can, you know, that want to go get tested,
And,
can go get tested, because it wasn't busy there on Monday. And I don't know if they're pushing, I haven't heard that they're pushed to the capacity of the testing, of the hospital one. I
Well,
haven't heard.
You know,
They did, eventually they were
Mhm.
tapping out, they were getting their max, but looking at the crowd numbers, you know, it was slow, but it was steady.
So Julie, you're gonna be bringing that to the board.
Yep.
And, you know, so hopefully that will help alleviate And if we can just, it is what it is. I mean, some people, some days their computers don't work and, I mean, and the thing is, we're hearing, I think it's universal, everybody's gonna be in the same boat, there isn't gonna be one school that's gonna super excel.
In fact, is it Dodgeville? Who went to December? Is it
I
Dodgeville?
believe so.
Dodgeville, I know Dodgeville has gone virtual.
Till December 1st.
And maybe that's the one that I was thinking of through November. That might be, not Reedsburg.
You're talking about, and I want to say it just because I'm here, and I think you guys all know me, but the extra subs is probably gonna be a little bit more middle school
Yep.
and
That's what I
elementary.
thought.
Because somebody coming in and making photocopies for me, that's not gonna make a difference in my world. I'll throw it out. Take it. What would be really cool for me would be able to leave at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. So I can go swimming. Because Baraboo has open swim. So for me to be able to just, I mean, you know me well enough to know
Decompress.
I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna work. I'll come in earlier, I'll come in late if that would be the need be. But just to do that emotional unwind, I go swim for an hour and it's, right now, Baraboo's got 8 lanes and you have to sign up and they only allow 8 people in at a time. So you get your lane for an hour. So it's really nice, that, now, like I said, that's just me personally, but it'd be really cool, if I could just say, hey, I can leave at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, get to Baraboo back home, grab my gear and head over to the pool quick and then, so that is the emotional break that would help me, but other teachers might have, so with, family consumer science, she might have a different need, or that somebody, maybe she could use somebody to help or something like that.
Is there anything else that either of you, Kathleen or Dave, you want to add?
Well, the only other thing that I would add, and I would wait until after we went, if we have to go back to virtual. And I know that we've talked about it with Chris and I know probably middle school and such a. I would, the 20 minutes just doesn't work. And it just doesn't work when we were doing that the first time. I think we would really need to sit down and take a look at it again. Just try to get the continuity that I was talking to you guys about before. I don't know if elementary goes the whole day when we were virtual. What time were they done?
They get done at by noon, and then they have office hours.
They were done by noon as well. But I thought that like Peg and some of them.
Well,
were-
the Encore go in the afternoon. We compressed to core curriculum in the morning, core classes, and then Mike, Liz, Peg, Emily, and guidance are in the afternoons.
Oh.
Yeah. Because the parents that, because the concern was, I can't take the whole day. My job will let me,
Yeah.
and so that's what.
Oh, okay, so it was just the encore. that was-
So we work, we focus on math, math, science, social studies, reading and writing in the morning. And then most of the kids join in the afternoon, but they, to give some parents flexibility.
Gotcha, okay.
Well, and hopefully, I mean, there's a big hope to getting through these holidays that we won't have to go virtual again, but I don't know. But I see what you're saying. I mean, 20 minutes for a high school class that's yeah, I mean, that somehow that has to be rectified.
You know, and it might be where, because elementary have a really hard time attending that long. I mean, like, Zooming is tiring, you know, and the older ones, they can do it a little bit longer, but those first graders, you know, it's like, so, and it might be where middle school and high school, their day is longer. They're, you know, like, I know Emma, she needs more math time, so she's thankful that David would do his in the afternoon, because she has to process it too, and she's gotta ask a lot of questions, and she's gotta hear it 5 times, and then it'll click. Other kids, you know, it's like that, but, you know, maybe, you know, just because we're under one roof doesn't mean we have to do it identical.
Right, right.
It's
I
what's
mean, I
best for
think
the
that's
development
exactly what
of-
Ron was saying. We don't know.
I mean, we take recess.
But
breaks,
we would be
you know,
willing to do, you know,
Yeah.
to be open to something that's out of the box if it's gonna benefit the learning. But that's not our expertise.
See, that's why most of us will just set up office hour Zooms and then turn it on, and then if somebody pops in, they pop in, because Emma is gonna get on the math right away. And there's
She's
gonna
in
be
Zoom
others
with you
that,
and
I'm gonna
Ron
get
and-
it at 2:45. They're gonna come in and say, hey, you got a minute yet? So I just open it on and I leave it on the whole afternoon. You know, and if I'm gonna be gone, if I'm gonna go, I just put BRB in the chat, and then you know, that way then they know that I'm there, just not there, so.
And I know, Julie, you had said that we'll forego the December meeting.
Yep.
So that's number 6, our next meeting would be in January.
I don't want to skip over the virtual challenges with curriculum. I just need to
Okay.
mention that.
Okay.
Some classes are really having a hard time getting some stuff done, so it's really hard to do woods
Oh, okay.
virtually and cooking virtually. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I would imagine some parents would be a little distressed if they came home.
there's a lot of frustration on those type of classrooms that much of their job was much of their grade was a hands-on project. I mean, you teach a kid to weld, you can't do that on the internet. You can, you know, so there's a huge frustration on those type of classes.
So we might need to look at second semester, what other classes can those teachers offer?
That aren't
It's
so
not a
hands-on.
hands-on option. I mean, because I don't foresee that us, like, someone getting better by
No.
January 25th.
Yeah.
So I mean, knowing Jim, he has other curriculums that he has sitting somewhere that aren't, I mean, granted, Jim's a hands-on guy, but same with Melissa, you know,
Yeah.
that area is so vast.
Yeah, I think there's a lot you can do with cooking without cooking.
Now, one thing I wonder about, and this is, I'd be open to Jim, Melissa, respects to, can you carve out a time to have them come in? Yes, they're virtual, but after 3 o'clock, come in, if the parents and the students are so concerned with being exposed, come into the facilities and do some welding,
Like a
do
lab,
something. Yeah, like a
extended
lab, correct. I mean, I don't, that's, like I said, and whether that's
Yeah.
feasible or not, I haven't a clue. I mean, they're busy, I know that they're busy, and I know that they have time set aside, you know, what they do after school is done. After the last hour is done, I'm sure they got plenty to do, but that was one thing that pops in my head. If he doesn't, or he has some sort of, you know, maybe there isn't variation on something that we can think outside the box, that might be, because I thought of that weeks ago. I was like, how do you do that? You know, when you're virtual, how do you, you know, with, didn't even think of what Melissa does on the,
Well, and
Maybe for
Melissa's
sewing.
in some ways, yeah, she did some sewing.
yeah, I know, I mean,
She still had stuff left over in her room, because I'm like, why do you have all these pillows here? She goes, they're from last year.
Yeah.
Because they didn't complete them, and they need to, and she's like, it literally would have taken me like 2 more class periods and every person would have been done, but here I sit all these half-done pillows in her room. But cooking she can do.
Yeah.
She has, the kids assign cooking.
Kids all have their own labs at home.
Right.
For the house.
So that part, so it's but, if you want the kid to learn how to make a hamburger, then they have to have hamburger, so that part might weigh on the parents too. So I don't know.
Some like stuff home too, like almost like 4-H, where they're giving like a demonstration kind of thing and they have to do that,
Yeah.
that kind of.
And she would take all that. Yep. All right. Thank you for letting me
No.
get that out because,
And sorry, I guess I just thought we had kind of talked the virtual challenges, but yeah, we didn't address like some of the labs and things like that. So anything else under 5.3?
What is 5.3 say? Linda?
The
Virtual
virtual
challenges.
challenges with
there
curriculum.
is also, just before I forget, Mrs. Willis mentioned she's having a hard time because she usually does labs herself. So even like the science, it's just,
Sure.
we're just missing out on that. That's all. And for some kids, that's their whole life is that hands-on.
Sure.
So it's very frustrating for them.
Well, we know that's how a certain percentage of students learn.
Yep.
That they have to have the hands-on, that the comprehension is physically, you can almost have the teacher touch their hands to do it.
Yeah.
And I just think of, say you're going forward in the year, like what should we be doing? I don't anticipate ever, and maybe I'm wrong, ever having 100% in person again. I mean, I don't, the option is there unless it's like cleared up, because if, I don't know. So like, is this something that we think about, all right, going forward, if this is my unit, these are my manipulatives that the kids gotta have, and just, like you have a supply list. You have a like, I don't know. Like I think of Chris and what she does and how.
Well, and part of her is that you can do the labs, but they're groups. And the kids aren't supposed to be that close to each other. So it's just,
you're
it's just a new way of thinking.
Yeah.
And, that's how I said it already, so.
Is there anything else?
I can't think of anything, David. I do wish more of the high school had chimed in. There were a few that did, but
Well, something like this gets put together and you get more, email it out if you feel that's appropriate. That's useful for me.
Yeah, especially like the request that you said, and if they realize that, we need to see, and we understand that things may have to be out of the box. But if nobody knows it, we can't assist.
Right. And that's what I put on my little blurb on Friday. It's like, hey, speak up, because you don't know unless you hear somebody
Right,
complaining.
yeah, and so instead of complaining, come help
Yeah.
solve,
Yeah.
be part of the solution.
and unfortunately, there kind of always is that paranoia that if we do that, we might be judged or whatever, and that's not what we're here for at all. All right. Accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. All right.
There, you met Marcus.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay, yep. So if you have access to that document,